Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday, the 4th of October, 2023. And of course, I would be remiss to not mention the fact that there's a lot of people stressing out over the FEMA alert that may happen this afternoon, Eastern Standard Time at 2:20 p.m. So 2:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is an international alert. And there's a lot of theories out there about like different waves, frequencies, vibrations that will be implemented and that may possibly impact people that may or may not have like different like metals or particles within their bodies and stuff like that. I've heard it all. And so yeah, if you're worried or concerned about anything like that, then just like I don't know, like shut your phones off or turn down your volume and just do things like that. But like when you turn your phone back on, just know that the alerts will come. So just make sure that if you like if you're just stressed about any of that stuff, then and any there's nothing out there that I have seen or heard regarding any kind of like discussions about anything like that happening. Just to be clear, and yeah, so it is what it is. But like just make sure that your volume is low and stuff like that on your phone so that if and when you do turn it back on, you're not getting it when you immediately do that. And the same thing for your TVs and laptop and whatever else. I don't know all the devices that will be impacted, but I suspect it will be like most anything with an internet connection, I guess. Just shaking up my shake. So I've been adamant and vocal about health and fitness and stuff like that, like for my whole life. And I have been overweight before, even when I was a teenager. And I realized, hey, if I want to be in the army, especially in the infantry, and have a better quality of life, I need to like lose weight and start getting fitter. And then I went from being overweight and stuff like that for a little while to being like a top athlete, elite level athlete. And so like even with my shakes, like I take veggie greens, microgreens, collagen, hydrolyzed. Sometimes I put like BCAAs inside my shakes and other good nutrients so that my ghrelin and leptin levels are balanced and that I'm not feeling like not satiated, because if you are lacking nutrients within your body, then like the body generally speaking wants to signal, that hey, like we're missing nutrients, we're missing like like vital nutrients. And so until you get that, like, a body's gonna still like feel hungry or not content. So that's why when people eat a lot of high fat, high sugar diets, if they're not adding in like shakes like this, you know what I mean, they're probably going to eat more during the day because the body's signaling that hey, I still need nutrients, and I'm not getting it in these high fat, high sugar, high processed foods. And so a way to mitigate that stuff is just have like a shake during the day. Try to use alkaline water, filtered water, or distilled water, and not tap water. And there is absolutely a difference. I highly recommend people do that. I've talked about the chemicals like pesticides and hormones within the water systems that are not being filtered out. But then there's also other like heavy metals and fluoride, like at higher levels that get absorbed in our skin and our water, right? So like we have to try to balance out like how many harmful toxins and chemicals or whatever you want to call it that we are exposing ourselves to on a regular basis. I'm going on all these tangents, but anyway, so that's a good way that I try to keep healthy is making sure that I try to get veggie greens, micronutrients in in ideally like shake form, because even with pills, like some pills are like there's cellulose exteriors, or just like the pill, like the capsules or whatever you want to call it that they're in, like those can be like not healthy for you either. And anyway, so I just wanted to talk about October 4th. And even if it doesn't have the alert this week, then it's going to be next week on the 11th, same time. And even my coffees, like I have mushroom coffee, and I try to get my coffee that is organic, that is not full of chemicals, because even coffee that you get, like most coffee that you get, unfortunately, has a lot of chemicals in it, right? And so and stuff that you need to like wash off that's not getting washed off, and Yeah, and if the body's getting a lot of that per day, like I don't know how many coffees people drink per day, but if you're drinking, a couple a day, that really does like cause buildup of these toxins and stuff like that. Anyways, I'm going on all these tangents because Pierre Poilievre, like he posted something regarding Justin Trudeau again, and yeah, what was the point here? Anyway, it was just regarding so many different things about like the economy and stuff like that too. And even like I've even told people too that even my mortgage like almost friggin' doubled when I had to get it reapproved or what do you want to call it with my move, and the fact that my contract was up like after like the 5 year mark, and it was closed fixed, and there's so many people that are going through the same thing as me. And so essentially what I was doing was I was saying like there have been several petitions out with like over 100,000 signatures for a vote of non-confidence to be called within cabinet, and there should be pressure within cabinet for a vote of non-confidence, or the like to call for the removal of Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau because they're employees of like there, and we are paying them, right? And if you look at their annual reviews, performance reviews, clearly these people are destroying the country and making things so much worse. And yeah, it's incredibly frustrating that like I'm getting people that are liking the comments like about me saying like these people should be like held accountable in a peaceful way. Obviously, what I mean by that is cabinet should be forcing these people to step down and resign, just like what happened with the Speaker of the House in the U.S. like yesterday. And people are shocked or surprised like that Marjorie Taylor Greene and these other Republicans like voted to keep him in. But I'm like, I've said this before on the record, like she's an actor or actress, whatever you want to call it, and she's part of the problem, right? Like she's like another controlled opposition person, whether she knows it or not. I'm sure she knows it. And yeah, and just like Trump is, just like Alex Jones, just like others, people need to wake up. And yeah, and I'm getting people saying like that doesn't work that way. And I'm getting like no one's saying anything else other than that. And so like I'm trolling people like, and I'm doing that where you do like different size like fonts and stuff like that for it doesn't work that way. And I'm like, what's your solution then? You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna troll me, you know what I mean? Like actually come up with a solution because I'm actually giving like the issue, and I come up with a way to remedy it. And and you get these freaking morons that are just like oh my god, it's just NPCs is what I like to call them. It's so frustrating. Non-playing actors. Yeah. Oh, and there's like people that are, I guess you would consider them independent journalists now within Canada that are getting contacted by law enforcement because of a another march or convoy or something like that that people are planning, and then a counter protest, which is still a protest, just because you're saying countered like doesn't mean anything, like it's still a protest, and and these are being run and coordinated by government. And so like so why is law enforcement, and again I work with them still, and I have a lot of respect for law enforcement, and again I'm not one of these idiots that is saying like defund the police. I don't say that at all. And where was I going with this stuff? But oh yeah, but there's people within the organization, just like in so many other places, right, that are not on the right side. They're not doing a good job, unfortunately for us, and they're supporting and enabling um crime. And it's not and it's frustrating, right? And so like why are these people not contacting like other government people, like these public works people that are not uniform wearing people, right? They're not people that are of service, right? Like these are people that could possibly have like administration jobs downtown likely, and and then using their free time, which they have a lot of it because they don't really have a meaningful job, and way overinflated salaries for doing like such a poor job in. Oh my god, like I could just go on so many tangents. Like, why are the why isn't law enforcement contacting these people, and why like for example haven't they contacted people like Pete Davidson, who's military? I won't go too much into you do your own search, and so why wasn't he like called up to see if he was going to be involved in this counter protest that happened in September, and things like that? But no, of course not. And it's oh my god, it's frustrating. And so on that note, I was going to talk about a few other things. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about RKX too. And like, it's no shade at all. Obviously, he's a genius, and he's well read. I am well read as well. And so I am someone that started reading a lot of books, and what I thought was fact-based books or nonfiction at like 4 or 5 years old. Like, I started reading at a ridiculously young age, and even in elementary school, like, every single year I won reading awards. I would do book reports for every single one of my books, and even in my sixth grade, at that point I had already read over like at least hundreds of books, if not thousands, even by my sixth grade, and I've gone on since then to become like more advanced with my literature and my tastes. And I have like my own library even now. And so even though like he's well read, don't get defensive. I am well read as well, and I have, and I'm an academic, and uh, and so like I try to refute some things because he's talking about um, the zodiac sign and the constellations and stuff like that, and and one of these other people that try to say dismiss the zodiac and say that it's more recent than we're being led to believe, and the Bible as well. And I'm not opposing that theory, but what I am saying is that anyone that comes up with any kind of like representation of the zodiac signs, like 12 specifically, within any culture or civilization, and this is again like all throughout like the world, we've seen like the 12 or the 13 constellations, or cluster of luminaries being brought up and being like recognized as different things, right? So like our Western traditional zodiac signs, like it's like Aries and Gemini and Taurus, like these ones. But then there's like animals that are represented in some cultures, like China, for example, uses animals, and um, and then it's a full year in these animal signs and not like on a monthly basis like we do in traditional. And then Egypt also has their own representations of the constellations, and they use like Isis and or Horus and Osiris and others like that, for example. And yeah, and it goes on, but this has to do with like the sun's ecliptical path, or sinusoidal or cycloidal, whatever you want to call it, path, um, within the sky, within the firmament, right? And it goes through these constellations, whatever you want to call it, on a regular basis, right? That's very predictable annually, and monthly, obviously, and daily. And I've showed this too, like where the like astrology should be using like the geocentric model vice the heliocentric model. They're using it anyways, right? Because they're using the Earth as the center of the wheel in relation to the where the sun and the moon and the luminaries were in the time of birth, and then how as they move now. And this is all again like it has to do with the sun, like for the Western um, astrology, for example, or astronomy. It's through Aries, approximately 6 a.m. when generally speaking the sun generally rises. Again, this is different depending on the seasons, and then it rises where it's at like 12 p.m. like going from Gemini to Cancer, and then goes down the wheel to Libra like for 6 p.m. at night, fall equinox, and then 12 p.m. Sorry, 12 a.m. being when it transitioned into Capricorn, where it's at its lowest point. And yeah, and so he could say what he wants about when the zodiac was discovered or whatever you want to call it, but this when the world was created, when the luminaries were created, like as God says in the Bible, it could be like a psyops, it could be like a book that's also like subtle brainwashing, you know what I mean, and like into controlling the masses, um, and to justify various actions and behaviors and stuff like that. Whatever, I'm open to these, but what I am saying is that there is a creator that or creators that designed and created this cosmos or whatever you want to call it, that's being that is projected via like energetic fields like electricity and magnetism, or electromagnetism, whatever you want to call it, and and the true shape is hyperboloids and toroidal fields, but it's being projected like this hologram on a flat plane of inertia. And people like Ken Wheeler are really, really good about talking about this stuff. I'm going on all these tangents. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so with archaics, I just wanted to say that um, regardless of his thoughts on the zodiac and astrology and stuff like that, like it's such an interesting topic. And again, like the ancients, pre-Socratic times, even like they like the astronomers were the scientists, and even in the Bible, like seek out the astrologers and the astronomers, and the wise people for counsel and yeah, but men love to dismiss it. And it is what it is. In general, right? There's also really, really good male astronomers. I'm not saying that at all. Incredible ones. It's just like usually like I don't know, when people are in certain bubbles, they don't even realize in their bubble because they're so open-minded with everything else that they don't realize that there's like this like there's like one little area where they're just like a little bit closed-minded on. Like this could help make links, right? Like even with the Bible, like the Last Supper, like I share, like this is supposed to be a representation of Jesus and the 12 disciples. Again, like another flat Earth like representation. Like this also starts with Aries, and then goes through like the zodiac signs, the 12 zodiac signs through here, and then and also broken down by the seasons, starting with spring and then summer, and ending with the Virgin Mary or Virgo, and then on the other side, starting with Libra, and then going all the way into to Pisces and winter, fall, and winter. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. It would be interesting if I've emailed him before as well, and he hasn't emailed me back. And I've gone on his Discord page and I've shared some things, and still nothing back. It is what it is. But yeah, it would just be interesting to talk about this a little more. Okay. Oh, I talked about Dan Hartman. I don't know if I did on my video the other day, but he's a Canadian father whose son died within 33 days of his first vaccine for Pfizer, and he's suing multiple people. And Viva Frey actually had this Dan Hartman on his show, on his podcast, and I highly recommend people take a look at that. And I will hopefully remember to link it in this video. It's heartbreaking, and the lawyer is very brave and intelligent, and so hopefully this gets rectified, and hopefully with like my case, like the Methylquin mask tort case that I'm involved in, hopefully the people that are the lawyers and the legal team that's involved in that also takes a look at the information that I was sharing with them like even 2 years ago regarding the adverse side effects and stuff like that with these mRNA therapeutics that were being forced on people or suggested. Anyway, and yeah, go from there. I did want to talk about Universe 25 because I think it's interesting. I've talked about this before, like even years ago. So like I know that it's redundant, but it's also important. So this is a like a scientific study that was published in '73. This is about Universe 25, and so I'll show a video on it. But then before I even do it, I'll show you bodily mortality. Like I don't know if you can see it here, but like right out of the get-go. Let us first consider the second death, table 1. This is table 1. The 4 mortality factors listed in Revelation have direct counterparts with a division of one of them to form a total of 5 in the ecology of animals in nature. And so the first one is the sword, which is emigration. Then there's famine, and then there's 2 subsections. There's 2A, 2B. So 2A is resource shortage, and then inclement weather and fire and cataclysms of nature. 3 is pestilence, diseases, illnesses, viruses, things like that. Inducing stress, fear mongering, things like that also causes disease, pestilence. And then wild beasts, predation. So emigration, they also break it down. So animals in the wild rarely die from the sword directly. Few are the deaths from intraspecific combat. Rather, it is that individuals who have failed in the more symbolic conflicts involved in gaining the right to remain in the locality of their birth or in more preferred habitats take recourse to movement into peripheral, unoccupied, or suboptimal habitats. In strange and less favorable habitats, the emigres become more exposed to other mortality factors. Any removal of excess members from any established population from the point of view of change in its numbers represents mortality. In this sense, emigration is a mortality factor. And so even with like if there's like limited resources, like for animals, for example, or humans, because the water supplies have been moved to other locations, this could cause it where there's droughts and or like animals are fighting for survival more so than they would have had they been in a more natural environment that was not touched by humans, and or natural events, but I also believe are caused by human touch as well. Because even with weather modification and cloud seeding and geoengineering and all the stuff that we're doing with the dams and stuff like that, this is all, again, this is stuff that impacts the climate. And yeah, anyway, so there's so much here that I can get into. I will link this PDF by by John B. Calhoun, MD. And I didn't even see if you've seen that. Okay, good, you did. So I will stop sharing that, and then I'll get into like a little video. And this is something that was also taught in my university days. And it's alarming because I see this being implemented in our current society. And that's not the one. There we go. Sorry, I didn't share the right one. That's interesting too, though. Ash conformity. Whew, I would definitely take a look at that. It's gonna play.
The work of Dr. John Calhoun at the National Institute of Health in Washington, D.C., has attempted to answer this question. In a unique experiment that took years to complete, Dr. Calhoun used white mice to study population growth and its effects on individual behavior. In addition to his renowned research papers, he has recorded some of these observations on film. In this 16-cell mouse habitat, utopian conditions of nutrition, comfort, and housing were provided for a potential population of over 3,000 mice. Yet, in spite of ideal conditions, the mouse population met with catastrophe. Individuals were kept track of by color markings on their fur. Factors which normally control population growth, such as predation by owls or cats, were eliminated. Transmissible disease was also reduced. In effect, the mouse universe simulated the present situation of a continually expanding population of humans. To see how Dr. Calhoun's mouse universe grew, we'll use the familiar population graph again. Within the first 100 days, the mice went through the period Dr. Calhoun called strive. This was a period of adjustment. Territories were established, and nests were made. The next period lasted about 250 days. The population of the mice doubled every 60 days. This was called the exploit period. The use of resources became unequal. Although each living unit was identical in structure and opportunities, more food and water was consumed in some areas. As the population increased, most mice associated eating and drinking with the presence of others, and crowding developed in certain units. The third period, consisting of 300 days, found the population of mice leveling off. This was called the equilibrium period. Dr. Calhoun noticed that the newer generations of young were inhibited, since most space was already socially defined. At this time, some unusual behavior became noticeable. Violence became prevalent. Excess males strived for acceptance, were rejected, and withdrew. Huddling together, they would exhibit brief flurries of violence among themselves. The effects of violence became increasingly visible. Certain individuals became targets of repeated attack. These individuals would have badly chewed and scarred tails. Other young mice growing into adulthood exhibited an even different type of behavior. Dr. Calhoun called these individuals the beautiful ones. Their time was devoted solely to grooming, eating, and sleeping. They never involved themselves with others, engaged in sex, nor would they fight. All appeared as a beautiful exhibit of the species, with keen, alert eyes and a healthy, well-kept body. These mice, however, could not cope with unusual stimuli. Though they looked inquisitive, they were, in fact, very stupid. Dr. Calhoun called the last period the die phase, leading the population into extinction. Although the mouse utopia could house 3,000, the population began to decline at 2,200. In the shift from the equilibrium to the die phase, each animal became less aware of associates, despite all animals being pushed closer together. Dr. Calhoun concluded that the mice could not effectively deal with the repeated contact of so many individuals. The evidence of violence increased to the point where most individuals had had their tails bitten to some degree. Eventually, the entire mouse population perished. Dr. Calhoun's experiment is a classic example of the typical population and its growth when left unchecked. Research in this area continues under his supervision. Currently, Dr. James Hill has taken the basics of the Calhoun experiment to study social behavior even more closely. In his experiment, rats are used instead of mice. Healthy individuals are selected to start the population. The rats are anesthetized so that Dr. Hill can perform a minor operation necessary to the success of his experiments. A small electromagnetic encapsulated device is implanted into every rat. This small unit enables sensing devices to keep track of the movement and position of each individual in the population. After surgery, the rats are introduced to their new multi-level.
An electromagnetic device was implanted into the rats to control them. It's very interesting.
Home, all at the same time. The rats immediately begin to explore their new environment, prior to organizing territories and nesting. Dr. Hill will trace how individuals move about in crowded situations. This movement is followed by tubular sensing devices. Every time a rat enters or passes through a tube, the unit detects and registers its presence. This constant movement is monitored by computer. Nesting activity is also studied. Dr. Hill has observed that the larger the population, the less care a mother gives to her nest and young. The same type of individuals that resulted in the mouse utopia are also emerging in the rat population. There are aggressives, asocials, and outcasts. Though these studies use animals, the findings about population growth and individual behavior are
aggressive, asocial, and outcasts. And look how they're like, and it starts, unfortunately, this is, I'm not being sexist here, but like weak men create weak societies, right? And so this is where, like, it's unfortunately in these behavioral experiments, it's the males, generally speaking, that start the antisocial behaviors and the violence and the harming of the others. And then there's like a certain groups that we're saying that are trying to be healthy in this group, the asexual, like the asocial, whatever you want to call it, ones that like in the mouse one, for example, that they just they were called stupid. I don't think they were stupid. I think that they were just didn't want to involve themselves even sexually, and I totally relate to this because of what they saw. You know what I mean, in their environment, right? They why would you want to procreate, you know, or any of that stuff? And it's still a survival environment, and so those instincts would lead these mice to not procreate if they wanted to or not. It's just not the environment. And so can anyone see any kind of like correlations between what's going on in Canada and the US and other areas right now and these experiments?
Are being closely compared to our own human population. Like all populations that have existed on this planet, many researchers believe that the human race has reached a crucial point in the exploit phase, a point where important decisions must be made and careful planning implemented if we are to survive. The study of plant and animal populations helps us to make decisions about the future of our human population, so that we may maintain our own balance with nature.
I hope that was interesting. I mean, it's also sort of terrifying, obviously. let's see if there's another one. Okay, so that time a guy tried to build a utopia. I haven't watched this video yet, but Universe 25 is really.
Just before we get started, I do want to thank Brilliant for sponsoring this video today. To support today, I found out and learn more about Brilliant.
Yeah, we really need to take a look at it. I've showed Stanford prison experiments as well, and other examples.
Utopia for mice.
And there's even behavioral studies that have been done on children where like they're in a group, because like peer pressure and conformity is also very something that we need to assess. And the rates at which people are willing to give the wrong answers and or fake things just because they don't want to be seen as not part of the group or as part of the consensus. And so there would be people that would give like a few kids things that were sugary and so pleasant to the taste buds, etc. And then they would, without the other kids knowing, they would give other kids the salt. And then and they're expecting it to be sweet, and they're looking at the kids that are enjoying and stuff like that. So they were also expecting it to be sweet, and then it was salty. And then you saw the kids, they actually faked, like they suppressed their displeasure, they just suppressed their distaste and stuff like that. And even when the teacher or whoever was that was doing the experiments, like asked them like, and what did you think and all this other stuff, they were like, like they're great, and because like these children didn't want to have a different reaction or response to what the majority had experienced. And so this is really important, right? Like that we looking at this stuff
That was purpose-built to satisfy their every need. Despite going out of his way to ensure the inhabitants of his perfect mouse society never wanted for anything, within 2 years, virtually the entire population was dead. So
this guy built a utopia, right? Or he attempted to build a utopia, like a perfect environment for his mice. And so this is just like another repeat of the other video. So I'll just give my take on that. I've always said that they're not any utopia if they're not close to their natural environment as possible, just like humans and other species, because they're still essentially quarantined, whatever you want to call it, and in a man-made environment, right? And so even with us, like the more disconnected we are from nature, like the more dystopian we become and antisocial and aggressive and things like that. And there's reasons like for that as well. But I would argue that like the closer that any species is to their natural environment, like the more optimal like it will be. And I'm hoping I'm making sense with that. And so I'll stop sharing this because it's just like another guy coming up with the same stuff. And I will share more stuff that people actually maybe I will share Ukraine stuff.
Well, Ukraine has run out of men to die in NATO's war, and now it's turning to women and younger boys to.
Why is that not working?
Well, Ukraine has run out of men to die in NATO's war. Now it's turning to women and younger boys to fill the ranks. That's right. We'll get to that part.
Nope.
Well, Ukraine has run out of men to die in NATO's war, and now.
Okay, so I will skip that for now because clearly YouTube doesn't want me sharing that. I don't know. Okay, go back to my streaming. There's so many. Anyway, the video I was going to show you was from Redacted, and it was like women must report for duty now in Ukraine, and it's because like there's been so many casualties and or men fleeing that are of fighting age that that women and younger kids now are being essentially drafted almost, pressured into going. So let's see if you can see this one.
Hello, folks. This is my first attempt at making a flight video. Sorry about the home using really cheap audio and video equipment. I want to talk about one of my favorite so-called flat Earth proofs. This is not really a proof of flat Earth. It's more of a proof of NASA Live. What we have here is the NASA Earthrise pictures from NASA. This is
Oh, the reception is so bad. I'm trying to close down so many different apps.
quick images. Yeah, I am recording. Here's quick images. You can pause that and look at them if you want. Here's the main page. Now, what I want you to notice is
These are Earthrise videos from NASA. These are all edited fake CGI. That's what he's trying to show you. It's just I'm gonna stop sharing. And of course, when I stop sharing, I'm actually hearing it now perfectly. It's not stopping anymore. Of course.
and you notice this? Well, I do.
This is annoying.
Right away, the Earth is huge. Now imagine from this vantage point, if you zoomed into that, and let's say you left your station 1,000,000 miles away on the satellite and just floated to the surface of the moon, what would happen to that Earth if you traveled toward the surface of the moon? It would get even larger. When you're standing on the surface of the moon, it would appear a good bit larger, don't you think? But now, again, remember we're comparing this image to this image. Do you see a problem? Do you see how small this projection?
Okay. Bear with me. I'm going to go on to another video.
Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been you. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Little darling, the smiles return into their faces. The little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, sun, sun. Little darling, I feel it as it's slowly melting. And little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright.
Yeah, that was a good video. Good video. Talked about all the major points. Oh my goodness, I can go on that for a while, but I think on that note, I will leave it. I was gonna talk about something else, but I freaking forgot. Oh my goodness. Oh, more information about the Wuhan lab leak. I'm just like, no way. Like that got people thinking that it was conspiracy theorists, like right at the friggin' beginning of the friggin' pandemic, which is what it is. And I was gonna talk about something else. Like there's some more information that came out. Oh yes, with Justin Trudeau trying to get to utilize media, but also like hiring people within government to lie about and embellish vaccine side effects, adverse reactions, and side effects, stuff like that, where they were coming out. He had already had right early on. People like me were sharing the information. I emailed him personally his government email address and gave the like the same stuff that I was giving to the ombudsman and Wayne Eyre, chief of defense staff, and others. Glenn Gower, who was the mayor of where I was living, and then Jim Watson, who was the mayor of Ottawa. Terrible mayor. Oh my God, worst ever. And countless others. And I was giving them like the links that I've shared with so many other people, and did not look at this, and clearly, or if you looked at it, didn't respond, and instead got scared of that information instead of like actually taking a look at it and considering it and stopping the trajectory that was going on. He instead came up with a campaign to just shut it down and shut anyone down that was giving this information, right? So like I had contracts taken from me that were canceled, like people within my peer group that like I was vilified, I was character assassinated, and I was harassed, and even cops investigating me and stuff like that, and Helen Gruce and other people that I can say now Jeremy McKenzie, so many other people that were being investigated because we were being painted as these extremists by extremists. That's the irony of it. And yeah, and it is what it is. And the fact that there was like government money, like taxpayers' money that was being used, like millions of dollars to try to shut people down that were just trying to be of service and good people with our organizations and not have this groupthink mentality, and was actually questioning stuff from early on and looking at our resources and assets and contacts and stuff like that, and in order to come up with with the decisions and the opinions that we came to. And yeah, Ottawa was so bad, still is, with this messaging, like, and oh my god, it's just it is what it is. But what do you do, right? Like, even in Europe, there were people that were part of the resistance that were trying to oppose things that were being pushed on people, and people that even in university systems and within government, like law enforcement, military, lawyers, and these people were executed. Some literally, and then others also jailed and missing and or had to flee. And yeah, just mind-blowing stuff. And it turns out these people were on the right side of history, even though they were considered a fringe minority, you know what I mean, and anti-science and all this other stuff. They were actually right, and on the right side of history. And people need to take a look at these heroes and just see what they gave up in these wars. Like, just yeah, there's so much misinformation. People, like, don't know about anything, right? Even with what's going on with with Ukraine's involvement with Nazis in the wars, and people being ignorant to think that that Ukraine was on oh my god, that there's no Nazis in Ukraine even still today, when they're showing it and sharing it, and there's independent journalists that are there that are also talking to these people that are even admitting it. And like, come on, come on, come on. And it's convoluted, right? And so my example has been like, in every kind of like landlocked area or apparent landlocked area, there is like at least one either state or province or country that speaks a different language than the majority of the other in that states or provinces or countries within that area. And I think that's by design as well, to have that division, right? And so there's always like likely a different religion involved, and it's very divisive with the surrounding areas and or language. So there's like that barrier as well. And then also having like essentially a uniparty is what it is, but having just like a dual party system, because that's also something that causes nothing but division, and at the mass level, right? So like, if you have the majority rule, that could be that's 51%, right? So you can piss off 49% of people within in a society, and you're not even representing like Canada in its entirety either right now with this party system. And so we need to have other options. And we have like this, we're misled into thinking that we have multiple parties, like the Bloc and the Green Party and the NDP, like another, and the PPC and stuff like that. But when have these parties ever, come close to becoming majority still, right? Left and right part of the same bird, but like, I don't know, there's even like, it is what it is. And there's no one right now in cabinet that's willing to step up, or enough people in cabinet willing to step up enough, because you only need a few. And then that actually makes people more apt to get out of groupthink or this conformity bias or whatever like that. If more people actually stood up and addressed the fact that Justin Trudeau needs to step down, Chrystia Freeland needs to step down, but so many other people within government need to step down. So why aren't people that are currently serving right now pushing this, knowing that our country is literally getting destroyed from the inside out? Why are you not urging this, right? You're getting paid. We are paying you to like check people within friggin' cabinet when they're not doing their jobs. And oh my god, especially when lives are at risk, ladies and gentlemen, and things that can be so easily mitigated. And it's not right. So this is where, like, even people that are part of other political organizations, they're also not up to the task, right? Like, they're clearly showing that they're not people that are willing to do what's necessary to put Canada on a better trajectory for its future, right? There's a lot of people that are very short-sighted and closed-minded that are in, and they're not shaking things up. Again, this is clearly stuff that has to be peaceful. I'm talking about emails and phone calls and stuff like that. And even with these protests, like I've said, like literally from the beginning, like, these are all planned and coordinated by people, you know, at the higher levels. Like it's people that are literally using people and exploiting like that are eliciting emotional response in people in order to like get like a chaotic event to be triggered, and then ultimately it allows for more control to be justified within government right now. And so like we can't have this right now, right? We need less of that stuff. And there's also crisis actors and riot actors that are used in these protests and counter protests, whatever you want to call it. And again, there's a lot of people that are within government or pretending that they're working within government. So like I've showed on like January 6th, like how many actors that were not at all law enforcement or fire or anything like that, and they were wearing uniforms that would suggest that they were. And so again, this is also something that's against the law. And so these people need to be held accountable. Right. And so if these are like public works people that are pretending now that they're cops, even though they clearly couldn't even do a push-up, then these people like just because their government doesn't mean that they shouldn't be held accountable. Like I need to reiterate this more. Like it's just because they're ruining the main effort. And yeah, I think I'm going on too many tangents. And so on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.